The sky was drizzling when Lily Perry vanished in McMinnville, Oregon, population 3,486. The October night was steeped in cold winds sweeping through the Willamette Valley, tearing through the thick fog, clinging to every rooftop. At 9:05 p.m., Lily's coworker, Janet Morris, waved goodbye as she saw the 52-year-old woman leave the library with her familiar beige canvas bag slung over her shoulder. Lily nodded faintly in return, looking weary after a late shift, then stepped across the rain-slicked sidewalk to her old silver sedan. From their window, a neighbor caught a glimpse of Lily's car lights turning onto the forested road by the river, the glow fading into the dense darkness. What happened next would become McMinnville's greatest haunting mystery for years to come. Before diving into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest cases. McMinnville, Oregon, October 2009. The small town nestled in the Willamette Valley was so quiet you could hear leaves falling in the yard or wind chimes softly tinkling on porches. By day, McMinnville exuded tranquility with its family-owned cafes, charming little shops, and a main street awash in vibrant red maple leaves, signaling autumn's arrival. But when night fell, that calm grew heavy, especially on drizzly, chilly evenings when cold winds wove through the trees. That night, the golden glow from the public library, the town's familiar red brick building, still spilled through the windows, casting shadows on the wet sidewalk. Inside, Lily Perry, 52, a dedicated librarian who had worked there for over 2 decades, was finishing her shift. She tidied the last stacks of books, jotted down a few notes for the next day, and slung her faded green canvas bag, holding a few half-read novels over her shoulder. Coworkers recalled that Lily seemed tired that day, her steps a bit slow, but she still offered her usual warm smile before stepping outside. That was the last time anyone at the library saw her. Outside, the main street was nearly deserted, the dim yellow streetlights reflected on the rain-soaked road, creating endless streaks of light. As Lily started her car and turned onto the forested road leading out of town, no one could have imagined it would be her final journey. A neighbor near the forest's edge later reported seeing headlights flash through the rain around 9 p.m. The beams cut through the thick darkness before quickly disappearing down a shadowed trail along the Willamette forest's edge. They couldn't make out the license plate, but felt certain it was Lily Perry's familiar silver-gray sedan. After those fading headlights, no trace remained. A heavy atmosphere settled over the town. Houses along the main street shuttered their windows, and the autumn winds howled through eaves, carrying dry maple leaves rustling across the ground. The townsfolk didn't yet know, but that night, something unusual had happened, poised to disrupt McMinnville's quiet rhythm forever. Lily, a woman beloved by the community for her dedication and kindness, had driven into the rain and vanished in silence. The rain continued to drizzle, a biting cold wrapping around every street corner, and from that moment, Lily Perry was gone, without a trace. The silence of the night was shattered just hours later by frantic calls within the Perry family. By 11 p.m. Anna, Lily's niece, noticed something entirely wrong. Her aunt was never late by more than half an hour, let alone unreachable by phone. Repeated calls only met with endless ringing, no one picking up. At first, Anna tried to reassure herself that Lily might be visiting a friend, or delayed by the rain. But as the unease tightened its grip, she finally called the police. Her voice trembled. "My aunt would never do this. I'm worried something bad has happened." Within half an hour, Yamhill County Sheriff's patrol cars pulled up to Lily's house. Headlights lit up the rain-soaked front yard, casting shadows of dark trees against the walls. 2 officers stepped out, quietly observing before knocking. They quickly found the front door securely locked from the outside, with no signs of tampering. Inside, the scene sent chills through them. The house was eerily tidy, every item in its place. On the kitchen table sat an untouched cup of tea, long gone cold, suggesting Lily had sipped it before leaving. The light jacket she always wore was still hanging on the rack. Spare keys rested on a hook near the door. No signs of a struggle, no displaced objects. The house seemed frozen in an ordinary moment, except its owner was gone. The officers photographed every detail, taking meticulous notes. One whispered to his partner, "If she went somewhere, why leave without her jacket, keys, or phone? Who goes out on a rainy night like this, empty-handed?" The question hung unanswered in the air. That night, police began initial interviews. A coworker from the library's evening shift confirmed that around 9 p.m., Lily left. Carrying her old canvas bag, her gait tired, but unremarkable. She recalled Lily's weary smile as she waved goodbye before stepping into the rain. A close friend of Lily's said she had no plans to travel and was still active in her weekend book club and preparing for Sunday's church service. She'd never just leave like that. It's not who she is, the friend insisted. Neighbors near her home reported that Lily's house lights went out on schedule, with no strange noises or suspicious figures lurking nearby. However, one vague account emerged. A man living near the library recalled seeing a dark-colored vehicle parked by the curb around 9 p.m. Its headlights briefly on before going dark. When he looked again, the vehicle was gone. He couldn't recall the license plate or see who was inside. Though uncertain, the statement hinted at the possibility of a stranger near the scene when Lily left. Yet, piecing together all the accounts, the picture remained fragmented and shallow. No one saw Lily get into another vehicle. No one heard a cry for help or saw her leave in distress. Investigators faced a stark reality on that first night. There was no clear crime scene. No blood, no signs of a struggle, no unfamiliar footprints in the yard or library parking lot. Only the mysterious absence of a disciplined, community-trusted woman who cherished her stable routine. By 3 a.m., in the small sheriff's office, the first reports were drafted. The thin stack of papers felt heavy, offering no real leads to Lily. A young officer sat dazed, tapping his fingers on the desk. We're missing something. Someone like her can't just vanish in this town. His older colleague stayed silent, red-eyed, staring at a McMinnville map on the wall. Outside, the rain tapped a steady rhythm, as if reminding them that with each passing minute, the odds of finding Lily safe grew slimmer. In those early hours, anxiety spread through the town. The Perry family huddled in their living room, eyes fixed on the window, as if expecting Lily to walk in. But the door stayed shut, the street outside echoing only with rain and the glow of dim streetlights. A truth began to settle. This wasn't a delay or a spontaneous trip. This was the start of a haunting disappearance that would grip McMinnville for years. As the gray dawn broke over the Willamette Valley, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office urgently coordinated with rescue teams for a large-scale search. Time was the enemy. In missing persons cases, the first 24 hours are critical for finding someone safe. By early morning, rescue vehicles, police cars, and volunteer rigs lined up near the library, turning the quiet area into a temporary command center. Topographic maps sprawled across wooden tables, marked with highlighter streaks indicating search zones. Scent dogs arrived first. 4 specially trained hounds sniffed Lily's clothing and belongings, then led officers into the dense forest along the Willamette Valley. Maple and cedar trees stood tightly packed, their wet fallen leaves blanketing the ground, posing a massive challenge to any search. The dogs' barks echoed through the woods, mingling with the whir of helicopters overhead. State police choppers flew low, using infrared cameras to detect unusual heat signatures, signs of a living person. Every inch of soil, every branch, every narrow trail was meticulously scoured. Meanwhile, dozens of volunteers from McMinnville and nearby towns joined in. Armed with flashlights and reflective vests, they fanned out in lines along trails and riverbanks. Some were Lily's friends, others were strangers, united by one goal: not letting Lily vanish in silence. We'll find her even if it's just a small clue, a middle-aged volunteer said, shining a flashlight across muddy patches. The first day brought a flicker of hope. A volunteer group found shoe prints in the damp soil, nearly 2 miles south of the library. Officers marked and photographed them, but the prints were blurred by rain, their size unclear, making it impossible to confirm if they were Lily's or someone else's passing through. Simultaneously, a small gray-green fabric scrap was found caught in briars near the riverbank. Soaked and frayed, it lacked distinct features. Police collected it as potential evidence, though they admitted it could belong to anyone. Local media quickly latched onto the story. The McMinnville News Register ran a front-page headline, 52-year-old woman missing, town in turmoil. Portland TV crews descended, setting up cameras outside the library, interviewing neighbors, friends, and police. Images of volunteers searching in the rain, scent dogs sniffing muddy ground, and helicopters circling a gloomy sky filled screens, heightening the tension. Police faced immense pressure. The community and public demanded answers. For 7 relentless days, the search pressed on. On day 3, hunters reported strange noises in the forest, but when rescuers arrived, only silence and churned mud remained. On day 5, a volunteer thought they spotted a green canvas bag floating on the river, but it was just a torn plastic bag filled with decayed leaves. On day 7, a helicopter detected an unusual heat signature, raising hopes. But the ground team found only a stray deer. Over that week, Lily's trail seemed to dissolve into thin air. No new leads, no additional witnesses, only disjointed fragments leading nowhere. Exhausted faces, heavy steps in cold mud, and defeated headshakes filled daily reports. A veteran officer muttered to his team, "We're chasing a ghost." As the search week ended, the results were nil. Lily's desk at the library sat empty, her usual book stacks gathering thin dust. The Perry family sank into despair, and police had to admit they found no concrete evidence of whether Lily was alive or dead. McMinnville, once a peaceful town, now bore the shadow of an unsolved disappearance, weighing on every resident's heart. Deep down, everyone knew this case wouldn't end here. Thus, as rescue teams scaled back, McMinnville police shifted focus from field searches to witness interviews. In the following week, over 20 people were questioned at the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office or their homes. The list spanned evening shift library coworkers, neighbors near Lily's home, and those who happened to pass the area that night. Investigators meticulously recorded every detail, hoping to piece together the fragments into a clearer picture. The first coworker, a young librarian, recounted that around 8:50 p.m. she saw Lily leave the library. She waved goodbye, looked a bit tired, but nothing unusual. She had her green canvas bag, like always, she said, her eyes red from sleeplessness. Asked if anyone was with Lily or if any cars were parked nearby, she shook her head. The lot was empty except for her car. A neighbor 2 blocks from the library said that around 9:30 p.m. he heard a loud engine noise from the forest near the river. It wasn't a normal car sound, he described, a sharp, lingering roar, like an old truck or military vehicle. He stressed how unusual the sound was on such a quiet night. Police noted it but found no tire tracks or evidence to confirm this when they checked the area the next day. Another witness, a middle-aged woman passing the library at 9:10 p.m., claimed she saw an olive green military-style vehicle parked near the entrance. It was big and old, like the military jeeps my husband drove in the service, she said, but admitted she couldn't recall the license plate or specifics. The rain was too heavy, I only glanced at it. Investigators also spoke with a few teenagers walking near the park. One recalled seeing headlights flash toward the forest road, but wasn't sure if it was before or after 9 p.m. Another claimed to have seen a man in a dark coat leaning against the library's side wall, but couldn't describe his face due to dim lighting. The accounts piled up like scattered puzzle pieces, but when laid out on the table, the picture they formed was riddled with contradictions. Some witnesses claimed they saw the strange vehicle around 9:10 p.m. Others said closer to 9:30. The timeline overlapped, with no one recalling the exact minute. The loud engine noise could have come from any truck passing on the nearby highway. The olive green military jeep might just have been an old car repainted, and the man in the shadows could have been a local simply passing by. Investigator Sarah Vaughn, reviewing the interview transcripts, saw only a tangled mess of data. There was no direct evidence linking to Lily after she left the library. No one actually saw her get into a strange vehicle. No one heard a cry for help. Details like the engine sound, headlights, or the figure in the dark only blurred the picture further. Police diligently checked each report, cross-referencing traffic schedules and security cameras at shops near the library. But the cameras were grainy, their angles not covering the main road. They showed only a few cars passing in the rain. License plates unreadable. Nothing carried enough weight to become evidence. After 2 weeks, the case file grew thicker with dozens of statements, but it remained hollow. The Yamhill County Sheriff admitted at a press conference, We've interviewed many witnesses, collected many accounts, but we currently have no solid leads on what happened to Miss Perry." His face bore clear signs of exhaustion. The crowd of reporters fell silent for a moment before bombarding him with questions, turning the briefing chaotic. McMinnville, accustomed to peace, was now shrouded in unease. Conversations in cafes, supermarkets, and churches revolved around the disappearance. Everyone had their own theory. Some said Lily was kidnapped. Others believed she had an accident, and some even spun tales that she left on purpose. But for her family, only one truth was clear. Lily didn't leave them willingly. With witness accounts repeatedly hitting dead ends, investigators turned back to those who knew Lily Perry directly. They believed in a small town like McMinnville, someone familiar with Lily's routine was likely involved. The name that surfaced most was Grayson Cooper, a neighbor living 3 houses down, a former Iraq War veteran. Local records noted Grayson returned from war with physical and mental scars, often unemployed and known for his volatile temper. Neighbors vividly recalled a heated argument between Grayson and Lily a few months before her disappearance. The dispute centered on a property line. Lily believed Grayson's fence encroached on her land, while he shouted, slamming the fence post to intimidate. "I heard him yelling from my kitchen," a neighbor recounted. Lily was calmer, but she was clearly worried. This detail made police take notice. Grayson was called to the station for questioning soon after the information spread. In the interrogation room, he appeared weary, with an unkempt gray beard and bloodshot eyes. Asked about the night Lily vanished, he insisted he was in Salem, visiting an old army buddy. "We drank beers and watched a game," he said, his voice hoarse. The friend later corroborated Grayson's presence in Salem during the time Lily disappeared. Still, investigators weren't fully convinced. They pressed Grayson for the exact time he left Salem and returned to McMinnville. He mumbled around midnight, but couldn't be precise. Reports noted he was cooperative, but visibly defensive, snapping when pressed. When the fence dispute came up, a flash of anger crossed his eyes. Yet anger wasn't evidence. A search of Grayson's home revealed no direct link to Lily. His vehicle didn't match the description of the olive green military Jeep a witness mentioned. Medical records showed he was being treated for PTSD, but that wasn't enough to tie him to the disappearance. No blood, no suspicious items, no witnesses placing Grayson with Lily that fateful night. With flimsy evidence, Grayson was temporarily cleared as a primary suspect. Internal reports stated there was insufficient legal basis to hold him. But in a small community, news spread like wildfire. Within days, McMinnville was abuzz with talk of Grayson Cooper. In the Central Cafe, some swore he always acted oddly, shouting late at night, tossing beer bottles into his yard, or talking to himself on his porch. Others defended him. A fellow veteran who served with Grayson said, "He sacrificed a lot for this country. PTSD makes him struggle, but I don't believe he's a killer." The divide reached Lily's family. Hannah, her niece, admitted to police she always felt uneasy passing Grayson's house. Meanwhile, some of Lily's friends were more cautious. "We shouldn't accuse without proof." Local media, closely following the case, seized on the detail. They reported on the fence dispute and Grayson's erratic behavior, fueling public outcry. Grayson became the center of heated debates, suspect or scapegoat. By the end of the questioning week, police still had no answers. Lily Perry's file grew by dozens of pages, mostly speculation. In a brief conclusion, an investigator noted, "Grayson Cooper, potential person of interest, but no concrete evidence. Continued monitoring required." For the Perry family, the truth remained in the dark. For McMinnville, Grayson's name became a deep crack in the community, feared, doubted, yet unproven. 6 months after Lily Perry's disappearance, McMinnville slowly returned to its daily rhythm, but no one could say the haunting had faded. In police offices, the Lily Perry missing person file grew thicker, but led nowhere. Dozens of statements, scene diagrams, photos of fabric scraps, muddy shoe prints, and a few hairs from her car seat were sealed in plastic bags, numbered, and stored in the cold evidence vault of the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. Each bag bore the chilling label, "No match, inconclusive." Investigator Sarah Vaughn and her team repeatedly returned to the scene, combing trails and riverbank brush, but their efforts only confirmed a bitter truth. Lily had vanished without a trace. Greason Cooper, once a divisive figure, was gradually cleared as no new evidence emerged. Early leads like the strange engine noise or the green military vehicle faded into unverifiable shadows. While police ran out of hope, the Perry family couldn't let go. Anna and relatives held monthly prayer vigils at the library on the day Lily vanished. They lit candles, placed her photo on a table, and urged anyone with information to come forward. These vigils spread through town, pausing passers-by. The family's loss became the community's shared haunt. "Each candle is a hope. We can't let that light die," Anna said in an interview. Oregon media dubbed the case the McMinnville Phantom. The Oregonian's May 2010 front page cemented Lily's image as a ghostly figure haunting the town. A 52-year-old woman walked out of the library into the rain, then vanished forever. No scream, no clear witness, no trail to follow. McMinnville now lives with an unsolved mystery. Media attention, rather than helping, added pressure on investigators. Calls flooded in. Some claimed seeing Lily in a Salem supermarket, others at a Portland gas station. All were logged, but none panned out. The sheriff sighed at a press conference. "We've checked every report, but none have led to solid results. This is the toughest case we've faced." In April 2010, after closed-door meetings, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office moved Lily Perry's file to cold case status, no longer actively investigated, with evidence stored until new technology or breakthroughs emerged. It was a painful setback for the Perry family. Anna wept outside the station. "How can they abandon my aunt like that? She's not just a number in a cold file." McMinnville's community struggled to accept it. Some criticized the police for not being thorough, while others urged moving on to avoid reopening wounds. Yet Lily Perry's name lingered in whispers. In cafes, library breaks, Sunday church services, she became a symbol of an inexplicable loss, a crack in the town's sense of safety. In the years that followed, the Perry family held annual memorials at the library where Lily last worked. Residents brought flowers, lit candles, and left notes in a guest book on an old wooden table. A boy's shaky handwriting read, "Miss Lily read stories to me. I hope she comes back." It was clear Lily wasn't just a case file but part of McMinnville's collective memory. For investigators, though, the Lily Perry case was officially frozen. In a cold storage room, Evidence Box 2009 LLP-01 sat neatly among hundreds, gathering dust. New officers occasionally heard of the McMinnville Phantom as a lesson in justice's fragility. And each autumn, when cold drizzle returned, residents recalled the fateful night Lily's headlights faded into the dark, the start of an unresolved mystery. The official file's final line, typed coldly, "Case suspended, pending new evidence." But for the family and community, the case never ended. It lived on in prayers, silent fears, and hopeless waiting. 10 years after Lily Perry's disappearance, McMinnville had donned a new face. Shops changed signs, families moved away, but the case's memory smoldered. Evidence Box 2009 LLP-01 gathered dust for a decade, mentioned only in retrospective articles titled The McMinnville Phantom. In March 2019, a spark of hope emerged when Oregon announced the re-establishment of a cold case unit to tackle unsolved cases. Lily Perry's name ranked near the top of the priority list. Detective Sarah Vaughn, a former Portland investigator known for her patience and eye for overlooked details, was assigned the case. Opening the dusty evidence box, her eyes scanned sealed plastic bags, black and white photos of muddy fabric, faint shoe prints, and hairs in an envelope. Remnants of a story seemingly frozen forever. "If something was missed, I'll find it," she told herself. Vaughn spent weeks rereading every report, from library coworker statements to accounts of strange engine noises and the green military vehicle in the rain, all endlessly repeated in news stories, but never fruitful. Then, examining physical evidence, she paused at one item prior investigators couldn't crack: the gray-green fabric scrap found near the riverbank, bearing a dark stain once thought to be blood, but untestable in 2009. She held the evidence bag to the light, inspecting closely. The stain had hardened over time, but the seal remained intact. Labeled in careful handwriting, possible blood stain, inconclusive. Vaughn knew 2009 DNA testing was limited, especially for small degraded samples exposed to rain. But in 2019, forensic science had advanced significantly. After discussions with superiors, Vaughn sent the sample to Uthram, a top-tier lab specializing in DNA analysis for cold cases. Uthram's forensic-grade genome sequencing could extract and amplify DNA from heavily degraded samples, a chance to revive a seemingly worthless clue. In her report accompanying the sample, Vaughn wrote, "If there's any hope of solving the Perry case, I believe it lies in this fabric." Those simple words weren't just paperwork, but a pledge from an investigator driven by fierce belief that justice for Lily Perry was still possible, even after a decade. When the stained fabric reached Uthram's Texas lab, forensic experts got to work. The sample was challenging, stored for over a decade, soaked by rain, caked in mud, and heavily degraded. In a sterile lab under cold blue light, technicians carefully cut a small piece from the fabric's edge, placed it in a glass vial, and began extraction. Traditional methods often failed with such old samples, but Uthram's forensic-grade genome sequencing could recover DNA from nearly destroyed evidence. They first cleaned contaminants, removing mud, then used specialized chemicals to release remaining DNA fragments. Under a microscope, broken nucleotide strands emerged, faint but readable. Next-generation sequencing machines ran for hours, reconstructing short DNA segments into a fuller profile. When the screen displayed millions of ATCG sequences, a scientist smiled faintly. "We've got a sample." Next came genealogical profiling. Instead of just comparing the DNA to the FBI's criminal database, Uthram cross-referenced it with public databases where millions of Americans had voluntarily submitted genetic data for ancestry or health insights. This allowed the fabric's DNA to be matched against thousands, even tens of thousands, of profiles to trace distant relatives, from cousins to ancestral lines. Initial results appeared after weeks. A few individuals shared 50 to 200 centimorgans with the unknown DNA, indicating distant kinship. Analysts built a family tree, tracing fourth and fifth generation relatives across states. A whiteboard in the meeting room, filled with names, birth years, and residences. Red marker lines wove a web of connections. One surname stood out, Cooper, tied to individuals scattered across Oregon and Washington. Analysts zeroed in on this branch, using civil records, birth certificates, and marriage licenses to flesh out details. Finally, a familiar McMinnville name appeared on the chart, Grayson Cooper. When the report reached Detective Sarah Vaughn, she froze. Grayson, the neighbor who clashed with Lily over the fence, questioned and cleared 10 years ago, reappeared via the fabric's DNA. "We're back at the starting line," Vaughn whispered, reading the results. The report clarified the DNA from the fabric's bloodstain was directly linked to the Cooper family. With near certain probability, it belonged to a close relative. While not immediately conclusive, the rigorous scientific process left little room for error. This meant Grayson, once dismissed, was back at the case's center. News spread quickly within the police department. Veteran officers recalled Grayson's 2009 interrogation, where he insisted he was in Salem with a friend's alibi. Back then, no physical evidence tied him to the crime, so the case faded. Now, advanced DNA technology had revived the overlooked fabric, pointing directly to the Cooper lineage. Vaughn drafted a new report for the cold case unit, emphasizing that this evidence opened a fresh investigative path, while warning that McMinnville could erupt again if Grayson's name went public. She remembered the town's division a decade ago, and knew this time would be fiercer. In a closed-door meeting, investigators revisited the old file. Details once vague now took on new weight: the loud engine at 9:30 p.m., the green military vehicle near the library, the fence dispute. Paired with the DNA evidence, they hinted at a picture no longer just speculative. A grizzled officer tapped the table. We might have missed him from the start. Vaughn stayed silent, but her eyes burned with resolve. She knew the Lily Perry case had been reignited, and this time, with modern science's power, the truth had a chance to surface. Grayson Cooper, who thought his chapter was closed, re-emerged like a phantom, poised to pull the community into a new storm. In early 2020, after Ulthram's DNA results pointed to the Cooper family, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office took a bold step, returning to the old crime scene, the Willamette Riverbank Forest, where Lily Perry vanished 11 years earlier. Many officers still recalled the hundreds of futile searches with dogs and helicopters. This time, they had new tools: drones with infrared cameras and ground-penetrating radar, capable of seeing through thick leaf cover and dense trees. A small task force, led by Detective Sarah Vaughn, was formed. Each morning, as fog blanketed the area, drones soared, scanning trails, dense woods, and riverbanks. Control station screens displayed detailed images of rotting logs and uneven ground. Meanwhile, technicians dragged ground-penetrating radar, slowly sweeping suspected areas, detecting anomalies beneath soil and leaves. For days, the results were only vague signals: tree roots, large rocks, rusted metal. Each evening, the team returned exhausted, but Vaughn kept reminding them, "We missed something once. We can't afford to miss again." Their persistence paid off on the fifth day. A drone scanning the southern valley, about 6 miles from the library, detected an unusually dense patch of trees with foliage covering a square-shaped object. When zoomed in, the technicians spotted faint metallic curves amid the greenery, likely the roof of a car. The search team immediately cordoned off the area, cutting through layers of vines, weeds, and thorns. A heavy smell of mold and rust filled the air. After hours of digging, an old sedan emerged, nearly swallowed by nature. Branches covered the hood, roots pierced the wheel wells, and the body was coated in moss and decayed leaves. When flashlights hit the mud-caked license plate, hearts stopped. Beneath the dried dirt, the numbers matched Lily Perry's registered plate. In that moment, the team fell silent. For 11 years, the Perry family had awaited answers. Now, at least part of the truth had surfaced from the forest's depths. Vaughn stood motionless for a few seconds, her eyes steely with resolve. She knew this discovery changed everything. The missing person case was now officially a criminal investigation. The car, the evidence they desperately sought, lay before them, less than 10 kilometers from where Lily vanished. The vehicle was sealed off that night. A white tarp tent was erected, its lights glaring in the deep forest. Forensic technicians in protective gear moved in, photographing every angle, marking every detail. They noted a slight dent on the rear, the driver's door locked, and the windows shattered over time. The interior was filled with decayed leaves, mud, and small animal remains. Crucially, signs suggested the car was deliberately placed there, not naturally stranded. Wheels were wedged with stones, and the body was intentionally covered. Someone had hidden it. News broke the next morning, rocking McMinnville. Newspapers splashed images of the forensic team beside the rusted sedan, with bold headlines: Lily Perry's car found after 11 years. Local TV interviewed residents who joined the 2009 searches, all shuddering to learn the car was in the forest they'd combed countless times. "We were right there, but nature hid it too well," an elderly volunteer said bitterly. For the police, this was a turning point. The license plate confirmed it was Lily's car, and it likely held clues to what happened that fateful night. Vaughn ordered the vehicle towed to the evidence warehouse for thorough analysis. She knew what they found inside could be incriminating evidence or the missing piece to complete the puzzle. That evening, standing at the forest's edge, looking at the cleared patch, Vaughn felt a chill run down her spine. For 11 years, The car had sat silently under the canopy, a mute secret. Now it spoke, and McMinnville was about to face a truth it had avoided for a decade. Lily Perry didn't vanish without reason. Someone had taken her into the forest with her sedan and tried to let it all fade into oblivion. Lily Perry's silver sedan was towed from the Willamette Valley forest under the town's watchful eyes. Cameras flashed as the convoy rolled through McMinnville's main street, heading to the Yamhill County Forensic Center. Residents lined the road, eerily silent, as if escorting a buried piece of their past. That night, under harsh white lab lights, forensic technicians pried open the rusted metal doors, beginning an examination that everyone knew would shape the case's fate. When the trunk popped open, the room fell into thick silence. Inside was a chaotic mess of decayed leaves, damp soil, and time's toll. Amid the debris, white bone fragments stood out, stacked as if hastily crammed into the tight space. A torn, faded fabric scrap lay beside a skull with a few teeth intact. The scrap bore a faint but recognizable logo, the canvas bag Lily always carried, described by coworkers in 2009 statements. Technicians, gloved in rubber, gently extracted each bone, placing them in labeled bags. Every fragment was meticulously numbered, as each could be pivotal evidence. A pair of worn women's shoes, laces rotted and leather torn, was found nearby. Next to it, a piece of a thin brown jacket matched descriptions of Lily's attire that night. DNA testing began that week. Samples from a femur were compared to DNA from Lily's hair, preserved by her family. The screen displayed a 99.99% match. The remains in the trunk were Lily Perry's. When informed, her family broke into sobs. Anna, her niece, managed only a brief statement, "Finally, my aunt is back with us." But a more shocking discovery came from the back seat. During inspection, technicians found dark stains on the rotted upholstery. Initially thought to be water or mold, they glowed pale blue under luminol, a telltale sign of blood. Subsequent DNA tests revealed a stunning result. The blood wasn't Lily's. This was clear evidence another person, injured or involved, had been in the car. With that, the 11-year missing person case became a murder investigation. Oregon media blared headlines, "Lily Perry's car reveals horrific secret, missing case now a murder." McMinnville reeled again. Those who hoped Lily had met an accident or wandered off faced a grim truth: she died violently, and someone had hidden it. Investigators scoured every centimeter of the car. Faint fingerprints were found on the door handle, eroded by time. Strange fabric fibers in the trunk were collected. A crushed cigarette butt, decayed but with a filter intact, was found in a seat crevice, potentially holding DNA. All evidence was sealed and sent for analysis, cross-referenced with the fabric scrap that had re-implicated Grayson Cooper. For police, the car's discovery was an irreversible shift. They were no longer chasing a vague disappearance, but a murder with a perpetrator. Detective Sarah Vaughn stared at photos of the bones in the trunk, feeling both pain and resolve. "We owe Lily justice," she told her unit. Outside, McMinnville erupted. Residents gathered at the library, forming a candlelit memorial circle. Lily's smiling photo sat at the center, surrounded by white carnations. On social media, justice for Lily spread, with hundreds of comments expressing grief and outrage. But alongside mourning came suspicion. Grayson Cooper's name, once suspected then cleared, resurfaced in whispers, especially after the strange blood leak. Some insisted he killed Lily. Others remained cautious, awaiting further results. The community's divide reignited. Internally, police knew the case had entered a critical phase. Finding Lily's remains wasn't the end, but a beginning. The car's evidence was the key to unlocking the truth. And the person whose blood stained the back seat, whoever they were, was central to answering the question haunting McMinnville for over a decade. Who killed Lily Perry? In the days following the sedan's transfer to the forensic center, all eyes were on the newly sealed evidence bags. Most critical were the blood samples from the back seat, stains that silenced the lab when they glowed under luminol. If their DNA could be identified, it would be the case's linchpin. Oregon State Lab launched an urgent process. Blood samples were carefully extracted, with remaining cells amplified via PCR. Sequencing machines ran day and night, piecing together fragmented genes into a complete DNA profile. After nearly 2 weeks, scientists sighed in relief as clear data appeared, suitable for comparison. The sample was run through CODIS, the National Database of Criminal and Suspect DNA. Results came faster than expected. A line flashed on the screen, prompting the technician to call Detective Sarah Vaughn. Immediately, match found. Grayson Cooper. The brief message hit like lightning. From the 2009 fabric scrap, vague witness accounts, and endless community debates, they now had direct evidence. Grayson Cooper's blood was in the car where Lily Perry died. This was no longer speculation. It was undeniable scientific fact. Vaughn arrived at the lab that day. She stood silently before the screen displaying the matching DNA sequences. Part of her felt heavy, knowing McMinnville faced another upheaval. But another part burned with resolve. Justice for Lily was finally taking shape. In a nearly 30-page report to the Yamhill County prosecutor, Vaughn detailed each step: extraction, sequencing, database comparison, and the match to Grayson. She wrote, "This is the first direct evidence linking Grayson Cooper to victim Lily Perry. His blood in the victim's car indicates an undeniable level of involvement." The report included crime scene photos, bloodstain diagrams, and scientific certifications. When the prosecutor finished reading, he sat quietly for a moment, then said softly, "We've waited 11 years for this." He knew the investigation had shifted from what happened to Lily Perry to how do we bring Grayson Cooper to trial. Yet Vaughn knew the road ahead wasn't easy. A strong DNA match could be challenged by defense claims that Grayson's blood in the car didn't prove murder. Perhaps he helped Lily with repairs or had casual contact. So, beyond the DNA report, Vaughn began building a comprehensive case: the fence dispute history, witnesses seeing a strange vehicle near the library, and inconsistencies in Grayson's Salem alibi. As night fell, Vaughn sat alone in her office, staring at the rain-blurred window, a scene reminiscent of the night Lily vanished. She knew McMinnville would never be the same, and when Grayson Cooper's name officially hit the prosecution file, the community's divide would flare again. But this time, she held the truth, and it would guide them through the decade-long unfinished journey. The DNA evidence from the sedan's back seat thrust Grayson Cooper back to the case's center. After the prosecutor reviewed Vaughn's report, a swift decision was made: request a warrant to search Grayson's home and property. The judge approved within 24 hours, as the DNA evidence was more than sufficient for a comprehensive search. Early the next morning, as weak sunlight pierced the thick Willamette Valley fog, police cars parked outside Grayson's weathered wooden house on McMinnville's outskirts. The house looked ordinary: a rotting porch, a faded American flag, knee-high weeds. But the air around it was tense. Curious neighbors gathered at a distance, whispering as police set up barriers. Grayson was asked to stay on the porch while forensic and investigative teams entered his garage, which he kept locked. The metal door screeched open, revealing a dusty, cluttered space reeking of motor oil, tobacco, and rust. Stacked cardboard boxes, scattered tools, and old military uniforms hung haphazardly. Amid the chaos, a small wooden box caught Vaughn's eye. Tucked in a dark corner under an old tarp, it was topped with rusted paint cans to conceal it. When the tarp was pulled back, personal items, clearly not belonging to a single man, appeared. A beige wool scarf, yellowed with age, was neatly folded. Embroidered on its edge, in clumsy but clear stitches, were the initials LP. Lily Perry's. Nearby, in a worn velvet box, they found a thin gold ring, engraved inside with Lily and her birth year, 1957. It matched the family's description of the ring Lily always wore, a gift from her late father. The room went quiet for a moment as the evidence came to light. A forensic tech whispered, "This can't be a coincidence." Grayson, watching from the porch, shouted denials. "I found those in the forest, near where they said she went missing," he yelled, face flushed, sweating. "I didn't know whose they were, just took them home." "You trying to make me the scapegoat?" His explanation rang hollow. Why would someone find a scarf and gold ring, items of clear sentimental value, and hide them in a wooden box in their garage? Vaughn, calm but firm, approached Grayson, holding the scarf with LP embroidered. "Do you know what these initials mean?" Grayson looked away, muttering incoherently. When shown the ring, he repeated, "I just found it." But this time, his voice trembled noticeably. The evidence was sealed and sent for further analysis. Fabric fibers, fingerprints, any remaining biological traces. For Vaughn, the garage findings weren't just objects. They were Lily's memories, proof she'd been stripped of everything in plain sight of this community. As police left with the wooden box and evidence, neighbors watched silently. Some whispered, "We suspected him all along." Others looked down, unable to believe the neighbor they greeted daily could be tied to such a crime. In an updated report to the prosecutor, Vaughn wrote, "The discovery of Lily Perry's personal items in Grayson Cooper's home is critical evidence, strongly supporting the hypothesis of his direct involvement in the victim's death." The sedan's backseat blood DNA was a fatal blow, but the scarf and engraved ring turned suspicion into undeniable reality. That evening, back at her office, Vaughn could still smell the musty garage air. She knew the Lily Perry case had reached an irreversible turning point. Grayson was no longer just a name in a file, but the prime suspect, facing the consequences of a crime hidden for over a decade. In the days following the search of Grayson Cooper's home, forensic labs in Salem worked nearly non-stop. All evidence from the garage, the LP scarf, Lily's engraved gold ring, and stray fabric fibers was sent with top priority. Detective Sarah Vaughn knew this was the decisive moment. If the analyses reinforced the sedan's backseat DNA, they'd have a robust evidence network to prosecute Grayson. First, technicians tackled the scarf. Under a microscope, the frayed yellowed wool still held tiny epithelial cells. Surface scanning revealed enough biological material for DNA extraction. The results silenced the team, a 100% match to Lily Perry. The scarf was undeniably hers, debunking Grayson's claim of finding it in the forest. No one could coincidentally find a victim's DNA-laden scarf and hide it in their garage for a decade. Next, the gold ring was analyzed. Time had blurred its surface fingerprints, but modern technology reconstructed the faint ridges. Using fluorescent powder and laser scanning, experts revealed clear prints matching Grayson Cooper's. The ring, Lily's, bore Grayson's fingerprints, a direct link between suspect and victim's possession. When this report arrived, Vaughn underlined in red, "Direct physical evidence." The garage's stray fibers were also examined. Initially just scraps on the wooden box's lid, they matched the sedan's backseat upholstery fabric perfectly. Synthetic fibers from a 2006 model, the same as Lily's car. Fibers from the car's interior in Grayson's garage proved contact between the two scenes. This was no coincidence, but evidence of material transfer. When all results were compiled, a dense evidence network emerged. Grayson's blood on the sedan's back seat, Lily's DNA on the scarf in his garage, her ring with his fingerprints, car upholstery fibers in his home. Each piece could be challenged alone, but together, they formed an undeniable picture. Grayson Cooper was with Lily Perry the night she vanished, and he'd hidden evidence for over a decade. Vaughn presented the updated file in a closed meeting with the prosecutor and unit leaders. On a large screen, she displayed each piece of evidence with its forensic results. When the final slide read, "Combined Evidence Network, Grayson Cooper," in bold red, the room fell silent. The prosecutor nodded slowly, "We're ready." But Vaughn knew it wasn't over. One piece of evidence could be contested, but not the network. The challenge was presenting it clearly to a jury, proving Grayson wasn't just coincidentally involved, but responsible for Lily's death. She spent nights reviewing reports, statements, and new forensic findings. In McMinnville, leaked news of the evidence sparked uproar. Some residents sighed in relief that old suspicions were validated. Others who defended Greason fell into uneasy silence. "We thought he was wronged, but if Lily's scarf and ring were in his house, there's nothing left to say," a neighbor admitted. The decade-long divide began to close, replaced by collective anger. In her office, Vaughn sat before stacks of documents, heart heavy. This case wasn't just about solving a mystery, but healing a community's wound. Signing the final report to the prosecutor, she felt like stitching the last thread of a fabric torn for 11 years. Justice was finally taking clear shape. Greason Cooper was summoned back to the station on an early fall morning, days after the forensic results on the scarf, ring, and fibers were internally disclosed. He entered the interrogation room looking haggard, disheveled hair, bloodshot eyes, a crumpled old jacket. Unlike 10 years ago, he was no longer just a suspicious neighbor police couldn't hold. He sat with a tightening web of evidence around him. Detective Sarah Vaughn faced him directly, placing a thick file on the table, her voice calm but firm. "Mr. Cooper, we need to talk about that rainy October night in 2009. Greason shrugged, crossing his arms, staring at the table. He immediately cited his PTSD. Long publicly known, "I don't remember anything. The war took my memory. I just know I was in Salem that night." Vaughn didn't rush to counter. She flipped through the file, reviewing his old statements, then cross-referenced them with his friend's timeline. "You said you left Salem around midnight, but a witness recalls you leaving earlier. Can you explain?" Greason shifted, fidgeting with his jacket's hem, replying curtly, "They remembered wrong." Vaughn moved to the shoe prints. She placed a 2009 photo of muddy tracks before him, alongside a new analysis matching them to old military boots found in his home. Same size, same sole pattern. "Care to explain?" Greason frowned, his voice low. "I've got a dozen pairs like that, military soles. Everyone's got them. You're setting me up." Undeterred, Vaughn presented each piece: the LP scarf with Lily's DNA, the ring with Greason's fingerprints, the car upholstery fibers in his garage. Greason initially stuck to his story. "I found them in the forest." But Vaughn calmly pointed out contradictions. "If you found them, why hide them in a wooden box? Why does Lily's ring have your fingerprints? Why are fibers from her car in your garage?" Greason began sweating, leaning back, eyes darting. The pivotal moment came when Vaughn paused for a few seconds, then asked abruptly, "Do you remember where Lily's car was found?" Greason smirked. "In the forest, covered up, behind the slope where the river bends." His words trailed off as he noticed the silence engulfing the room. Vaughn fixed him with a piercing stare. "What did you just say?" "The exact location of the car was never released to the public. Only someone who put it there would know." Greason paled, stammering, I heard it from someone." Vaughn leaned in, her voice low but firm. "No one knew that detail. You just revealed something only the perpetrator could know." The cramped room grew thick with tension, the creaking ceiling fan amplifying the strain. Greason fell silent, his hands gripping the table's edge until they turned white. Vaughn didn't need a full confession. With Greason's slip, combined with the forensic evidence network, the prosecution's case was nearly complete. As she left the interrogation room, she jotted in her notebook. Subject inadvertently revealed knowledge of unreleased detail, direct implication. It was the final piece turning suspicion into undeniable truth. Greason Cooper was present the night Lily Perry vanished, and he knew exactly where her car was hidden. After that second interrogation, when Greason Cooper unwittingly revealed the unreleased detail about the car's location, Detective Sarah Vaughn knew the case against him was nearly airtight. But she also understood that to bring it to court convincingly, they needed more than DNA and a verbal slip. They needed witnesses, living, breathing people who could stand before a jury and confirm Greason had made incriminating statements about Lily Perry. And as if by fate, those witnesses began to emerge. The first was a former Iraq War comrade, who served with Grayson. He contacted police after reading about the car's discovery. In an interview, the middle-aged man, with graying hair and eyes still haunted by war, spoke slowly. "I remember drinking with Grayson around 2012. He was drunk, laughing hysterically, and said, 'I taught that Perry woman a lesson. Now no one dares mess with my property.' I thought he was just rambling, but now, his statement was recorded, signed, and quickly became a key piece of the puzzle." Soon after, another neighbor, living near the Willamette Forest entrance, came forward. He recounted seeing Grayson's pickup truck parked near the forest's edge that night, headlights off, but engine rumbling. "I stepped onto my porch for a smoke, around 9:30. It was pouring, but I recognized that truck. I'd seen it 100 times, he said firmly. When asked why he didn't report it then, he admitted, "I didn't want to get mixed up with Grayson. Everyone around here knows he's hot-tempered and carries guns. But that night's image has haunted me for years." These two new statements, resonating with the physical evidence, turned the case from solid to nearly unshakable. The Yamhill County prosecutor, reviewing Vaughn's summary, concluded, "This is no longer suspicion. It's a tightly woven chain of evidence and witnesses. The jury will see clearly that Grayson Cooper wasn't just involved, he's the perpetrator." In McMinnville, news of the new witnesses spread like wildfire. People whispered in cafes, supermarkets, and church parking lots. Those once skeptical began believing the truth was finally surfacing. "I knew something was off that night," a woman murmured. "But hearing others speak up now gives me chills. He lived among us all this time." Vaughn, sitting in her office amid towering case files, felt the puzzle nearing completion. Grayson's blood in the car, Lily's scarf and ring in his garage, matching fibers, the interrogation slip, and now witness accounts, all wove into an unbreakable web. With each added piece, the McMinnville phantom took shape, no longer vague. As she signed off on the second witness statement, Vaughn knew the Lily Perry case had crossed an irreversible threshold. McMinnville would soon witness a historic trial, where the truth about that rainy night in 2009 would be laid bare, and Grayson Cooper would face the justice he'd evaded for over a decade. With new witness statements and a slew of forensic evidence, Detective Sarah Vaughn and her team knew the next step was reconstructing the full timeline of that fateful October night in 2009. Only a clear minute-by-minute account would convince a jury of Lily Perry's death. The team gathered around a conference table, a sprawling McMinnville map before them, marked in red with key locations: the public library, the Willamette Riverbank Road, Grayson's house, and the Salem bar where he claimed to be. They started with confirmed details, 9:05 p.m. Lily left the library. Her coworker vividly recalled the moment she slung her canvas bag over her shoulder, smiled goodbye, and stepped into the rain. A grainy security camera from a store across the street caught the silver sedan's headlights, leaving the library lot around that time. This was an indisputable starting point. Next, 9:20 p.m. a witness near the forest entrance reported seeing headlights flash onto the Willamette Trail. Cross-referenced with the map, it matched Lily's usual route home. 2020 radar scans of the scene revealed old tire tracks etched in the soil, leading to where the sedan was later found. This supported the theory that Lily drove into the forest then, unaware she was being followed. 9:30 p.m., a critical moment. A nearby neighbor recalled hearing a loud engine through the rain. Initially thinking it was a passing truck, the prolonged rumble and sudden stop unsettled him. Now paired with other details, police believed it was Grayson's pickup, parked and idling, waiting for Lily. GPS data from an old 2008 device found in Grayson's garage showed he traveled from Salem toward McMinnville in that time frame. The faint coordinates confirmed his truck stopped near the forest between 9:25 and 9:35. 10 o'clock p.m. Grayson repeatedly claimed he left Salem for home at this time, but phone records retrieved from the carrier told a different story. A short call from his device at 9:40 p.m. pinged a cell tower near McMinnville, not Salem. This proved he lied about his whereabouts. Additionally, a Highway 99W traffic camera captured a dark green pickup passing the McMinnville turnoff at 9:47 p.m. The license plate wasn't clear, but the truck matched Grayson's. Combining all data, the picture emerged. Lily left the library at 9:05, entered the forest at 9:20. Grayson, far from Salem as he claimed, was near the forest around 9:30 when the witness heard the engine. Vaughn traced red lines on the timeline board. Each marker, evidence, and statement wove into a logical sequence. Grayson stalked Lily, ambushed her in the forest, and acted in the dark. He then hid the sedan, leaving Lily's remains to rot under the trees for over a decade. In the final meeting before submitting to the prosecutor, Vaughn presented the timeline to her team. Her voice was steady, eyes blazing. "We've proven Grayson wasn't in Salem, as he claimed. We have his DNA in her car, her possessions in his home, and now objective data, GPS, phone records, cameras, proving he was at the right place, at the right time." Lily vanished. The prosecutor flipped through the file, nodding. "This is a complete timeline. It aligns with every hypothesis about Grayson's actions. There's no gap for him to hide in anymore." As the meeting ended, Vaughn gathered the map and documents, feeling a strange mix, relief that the truth was clear and heaviness for what Lily endured that rainy night. For 11 years, McMinnville lived under a mystery's shadow, and now, the completed timeline brought that phantom into the light. On a quiet spring night in 2023, Grayson Cooper's old wooden house became the epicenter of a major operation. After months of preparation, the Yamhill County prosecutor issued an arrest warrant based on the DNA, physical evidence, and timeline from Vaughn and the cold case unit. A SWAT team was deployed, as Grayson, an Iraq veteran trained in weapons, was believed to keep guns at home. Armored vehicles rolled silently down the dirt road to his house. The SWAT team, in bulletproof vests with weapons ready, surrounded the property. An officer boomed through a megaphone, "Grayson Cooper, this is the police. You're under arrest by court order. Come out with your hands up." Only heavy silence answered. The house was dark, no lights, no sound. After 3 unanswered warnings, SWAT breached the door. A deafening blast tore through the night, smoke billowing. Officers stormed in, flashlights sweeping. Grayson was found in his bedroom, sitting against the wall, eyes wide as if he'd long awaited this moment. He didn't resist or shout, only saying coldly, "You're 14 years late." Cold steel handcuffs snapped onto his wrists, and the once quiet house filled with the sound of boots and crackling radios. The news broke that morning, spreading rapidly. Local and state media blared, "Cold case solved after 14 years, suspect arrested." TV stations aired footage of Grayson escorted from his home, head bowed, hands cuffed, surrounded by dozens of officers. The image became a symbol of justice's persistence, but also ignited a firestorm of public reaction. McMinnville reeled. Neighbors who'd shared dinners or seen Grayson water his lawn whispered in cafes, stunned. He lived among us all this time, while Lily lay in the forest. Some sighed in relief that old suspicions were validated. Others shook their heads, struggling to accept a former hero could commit such a crime. At the McMinnville library where Lily worked, former colleagues wept at the news. One whispered, "She's finally getting justice." The Perry family held a special prayer vigil, the first in 14 years, where candles burned not just for memory, but for hope that the truth would emerge. The night of Grayson's arrest, Vaughn stood at the scene, cold wind rustling the trees, watching him driven away in an armored vehicle. She felt no triumph, only relief tinged with pain. For McMinnville, this wasn't just an arrest, but the closing of a dark chapter. Yet she knew the road ahead, trial, legal battles, reopened wounds, was just beginning. 2 months after Grayson Cooper's SWAT arrest, McMinnville erupted again when the preliminary hearing opened at the Yamhill County Courthouse. From early morning, reporters, locals, and 2009 search volunteers lined up to enter. Camera flashes flared as all eyes fixed on the iron door where the suspect would appear. When Grayson entered in an orange jumpsuit, disheveled hair and vacant eyes, the courtroom buzzed. People saw him as a phantom. the man who lived among them for 14 years while Lily Perry's truth lay buried in the forest. The county prosecutor, in his opening statement, charged Grayson with first-degree murder, the gravest charge, carrying a possible life sentence without parole. He declared, "On that rainy October night in 2009, the defendant ambushed, killed, and deliberately hid Lily Perry's body. This was no accident, no impulse, but a calculated act concealed for years." His words echoed, bringing tears to the Perry family. The defense countered swiftly. Grayson's young lawyer spoke forcefully. "My client is an Iraq War veteran who sacrificed for this country and returned with severe PTSD. His memory gaps and uncontrollable anger stem from that trauma. If he was involved in Miss Perry's death, it cannot be deemed intentional murder, but a tragic consequence of a war-induced illness." The argument swayed some, but many in the room glared with fury. To rebut, the prosecutor presented the massive evidence file police had painstakingly built. First was the DNA, Grayson's blood on the sedan's back seat, analyzed and perfectly matched. Next were the physical items, the LP scarf with Lily's DNA, the gold ring with Grayson's fingerprints, and fibers matching Lily's car upholstery found in his garage. Each piece was displayed on a large screen, with crime scene photos and analysis charts silencing the room. The prosecutor then called Detective Sarah Vaughn to the witness stand. Calmly, she laid out the reconstructed timeline. 9:05 p.m. Lily left the library. 9:20. Her car entered the forest. 9:30. A witness heard a loud engine. 9:47. A highway camera caught a pickup like Grayson's. 10 o'clock. Phone data placed him near McMinnville, not Salem. This timeline, Vaughn concluded, fully aligns with the hypothesis that Grayson Cooper ambushed Lily Perry the night she vanished. The defense leaned on PTSD, citing Grayson's medical records, emphasizing nightmares and loss of control. But the prosecutor countered. Even if PTSD affected the defendant's memory, it doesn't explain his blood in the victim's car, her possessions in his garage, or how only someone at the scene could describe the sedan's hidden location. The courtroom erupted when the prosecutor read Grayson's interrogation slip. "In the forest, covered up behind the slope where the river bends." A detail never publicized. He stressed, "This is the clearest unintentional confession." As the preliminary hearing ended, the judge ruled there was sufficient evidence for a full trial on first-degree murder. The gavel's echo shook the room, met with sighs, sobs, and scattered applause from the community. The Perry family embraced, tears streaming but eyes glinting with hope. Grayson, escorted out, kept his head down, eyes vacant. He said nothing, but for McMinnville, his silence no longer mattered. The evidence spoke for all, and his path now led to the courtroom, where justice awaited after 14 years of darkness. On the trial's second day, the prosecution focused on forensic evidence, deemed incapable of lying. The courtroom tensed as an Othram DNA expert took the stand, dressed in a white lab coat, clutching a thick file, and swearing in with a steady voice. The prosecutor asked her to explain the process of analyzing the blood from the sedan's back seat. She began with the basics, extracting DNA from blood dried for over a decade, using PCR to amplify tiny gene fragments, then sequencing to build a complete profile. Behind her, a large screen displayed charts, clear gene bands aligned with Grayson Cooper's DNA sample. The results were undeniable, a perfect match. "What's the likelihood of a random person matching this DNA profile?" the prosecutor asked. The expert replied firmly, 1 in billions. Scientifically, this confirms the blood belongs to Grayson Cooper. Jurors leaned forward, scribbling notes, some nodding. Next, the forensic expert presented other evidence. The LP scarf, displayed in a dust-proof case, was projected close-up. Under UV light, Lily's skin cells glowed. DNA results matched her hair sample 100%. The gold ring deepened the mood, faint fingerprints, reconstructed, perfectly matched Grayson's. The jury also saw the shoe print comparison, A 2009 muddy track photo from the forest edge beside boots from Grayson's home. The tread, size and wear align perfectly. The prosecutor concluded, "This isn't coincidence. These are the defendant's footprints, leading to where Lily Perry's car was found." When the prosecutor reiterated the fatal slip from the second interrogation, Grayson's detailed description of the car's location, behind the slope where the river bends, all eyes turned to him. His face paled, lips pressed tight, hands trembling as they clenched. No one but the perpetrator could know that detail, as it was never released. The scene drove another nail of truth into the jury's minds. Grayson Cooper was the one who hid the sedan in the forest, burying the secret for 14 years. As the expert concluded her testimony, the prosecutor faced the jury. "We have DNA, physical evidence, crime scene traces, witness statements, and the defendant's own words. Science, truth, and justice all point in one direction." The courtroom fell silent for a moment before the judge adjourned the day. In the family section, Lily's relatives clung to each other. They had waited over a decade for this moment, when undeniable scientific evidence exposed the man who took the town's kind-hearted woman. Across from them, Grayson hung his head, the once proud veteran now shrunken, a symbol of truth laid bare before justice. On the final day of the trial, the Yamhill County courtroom was packed. The air was thick with 14 years of anticipation since Lily Perry vanished. After weeks of arguments, witnesses, evidence, and tense cross-examinations, it all converged on one moment. The verdict for Grayson Cooper. He entered in an orange jumpsuit, face gaunt, eyes weary, but still holding a cold defiance. Across the room, the Perry family clasped hands, trembling with a mix of hope and fear. The judge looked directly at Grayson, voice low but firm. "Based on the entirety of DNA evidence, physical items, witness testimonies, and scientific conclusions, this court finds Mr. Grayson Cooper guilty of first-degree murder of citizen Lily Perry. Sentence, life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole." The gavel's echo resounded, shattering the darkness that had shrouded McMinnville for over a decade. In that moment, Lily's family broke into sobs. Her daughter covered her face, weeping, while Anna, her niece, collapsed onto her mother's shoulder, crying and whispering, "Finally, Aunt Lily has justice." The sobs mingled with the community's relieved sighs, many in the courtroom unable to hold back tears. They had searched for Lily in the rain of 2009, lit candles when the case went cold, and now witnessed justice served. Grayson Cooper sat motionless, lips tight, hands gripping each other. He didn't shout, protest, or show remorse. His ashen face seemed drained of strength. Some saw it as callousness, others as a belated realization of an irreversible sentence. But whatever it was, his fate was sealed, the rest of his life behind bars, with no day of freedom. Oregon media erupted. The Oregonian's front-page headline blared, "Justice after 14 years." Local TV stations aired non-stop, showing Lily's family crying in court, alongside images of Grayson escorted to a prison van. Commentators called it one of the state's most significant cold case resolutions, a testament to forensic science and the investigation's relentless persistence. In the days that followed, McMinnville buzzed with talk of the case. People met in cafes, supermarkets, and the library where Lily worked, recounting every detail. "I never believed he was innocent," a neighbor said. But it took 14 years to prove too long. At the town square, a candlelight vigil honored Lily. The candles flickered, swayed by the wind, but unextinguished, symbolizing steadfast faith in justice. Detective Sarah Vaughn, standing quietly outside the courthouse, watched the crowd disperse with red-rimmed eyes. She knew this wasn't her victory alone, but belonged to the community, Lily's family, and all who persevered in the dark. Yet deep inside, she felt an irreparable loss. Justice could arrive, but Lily Perry was gone forever. As night fell, the McMinnville Gazette's final article ended with a line that silenced the town. "Lily Perry has been found. Justice has spoken, but the cost was 14 years of tears." For those who lived through that time, Grayson Cooper's sentence wasn't just punishment, but a reminder that darkness may linger, but light ultimately prevails. A week after the verdict, McMinnville held a solemn memorial at the library where Lily Perry worked. The large reading room was cleared, chairs neatly arranged, and at the front stood Lily's smiling photo in an oak frame, surrounded by white carnations. The crowd was vast, former colleagues, neighbors, and 2009 search volunteers. Candlelight cast shadows on familiar bookshelves, the atmosphere solemn yet sacred. Anna Carter, Lily's niece, took the podium. Her voice trembled, but resolute. Aunt Lily can finally rest. We waited 14 years for this moment. 14 years of pain, hope, and despair, and today, we know the truth has been revealed. Though justice came late, it came, and my aunt is no longer forgotten. The hall fell silent, then erupted in prolonged, emotional applause. The ceremony wasn't just for Lily, but to affirm a greater message: time cannot erase truth. Detective Sarah Vaughn stood quietly at the back. She didn't speak, but her eyes shone with conviction as the pastor said, "This proves that no matter how many years pass, human persistence and forensic advancements can deliver justice." Oregon newspapers ran editorials. The Oregonian wrote, "The Lily Perry case is not just a small-town story of loss, but a reminder that no secret lasts forever. With DNA technology and the tenacity of those seeking justice, the past has been brought to light." McMinnville's residents read with pride, mixed with pain. Knowing their unity, annual candles, and ceaseless prayers kept Lily's name alive. To the community, the case became a symbol. A symbol of enduring pain, but also steadfast hope. A symbol of a small town, once trembling in fear, now standing stronger as truth prevailed. Above all, a symbol for other missing persons that their stories, no matter how long, can still be told and closed with justice. As the ceremony ended, people gathered in the library courtyard where a young cherry tree was planted for Lily. White ribbons fluttered around its trunk in the night breeze. Anna placed her hand on the thin bark, whispering, "Auntie, we found you. You can rest now." The final scene lingered. McMinnville gathered before the library. Hundreds of candles glowing, reflecting off the glass, illuminating Lily Perry's photo in the dark. A belated justice, but true justice. From that day, McMinnville was no longer a town haunted by a phantom. It was a place where people believed, no matter how long, the truth would always speak. The Lily Perry case in McMinnville, Oregon, offers valuable lessons for American society today, where small communities and large cities alike face challenges of safety, justice, and trust. First, Lily's 2009 disappearance highlights the fragility of everyday life. A 52-year-old woman, simply leaving a library on a rainy night, was swept into a 14-year tragedy. It reminds us that even in peaceful towns, danger can lurk, and community vigilance is vital. Second, the persistence of investigators and forensic advancements were key to justice. DNA from the sedan's back seat, the LP scarf, and Lily's engraved ring, details once meaningless without modern technology, ultimately exposed Grayson Cooper. This reflects today's reality in the U.S. Many cold cases are solved through advanced labs like Othram and interagency collaboration. Another key point is community strength. For years, Lily's family held vigils, media kept reporting, and residents refused to let the story fade. In today's society, this underscores how collective memory and demands for justice can pressure the legal system to act. Finally, the lesson is that justice may be delayed, but arrives with perseverance. For other American families seeking missing loved ones, Lily Perry's story is a message: don't give up, for the truth has a way of being found. Thank you for joining us in the journey to reclaim justice for Lily Perry after 14 years in the dark. Subscribe to our channel to follow more cold case stories, and we'll see you in the next video.